I never thought I'd be the person giving advice about staying active in your 60s. Truth is, 5 years ago, I could barely bend down to tie my shoes without wincing. My doctor had that look, the one, where they're trying to be polite, but what they're really saying is, if you don't change something, we're heading for trouble. I remember sitting in my living room that evening, staring out at my neglected backyard, wondering if this was just what getting older meant. Aches, pains, and a growing list of can'ts, but then something happened that changed everything. And it wasn't some miracle pill or expensive exercise program. It was dirt. Simple garden soil beneath my fingernails. I'm Margaret Wilson, and for the past 30 years, I've been teaching people how to create beautiful gardens. But what I didn't realize until my own health crisis was that gardening wasn't just my passion, it would become my medicine. That neglected backyard I mentioned. After that doctor's appointment, I decided if I was going to hurt anyway, I might as well hurt doing something I loved. So I started small, just 15 minutes pulling weeds around my patio. The next day, another 15 minutes. By the end of the week, I had cleared a small patch and planted a few herbs. My joints still ached, but something was different. I was sleeping better. My mood improved. And most surprisingly, after a few weeks, I could move more easily in the morning. When I mentioned this to my doctor at my follow-up, she wasn't surprised at all. Gardening, she told me, is one of the most complete forms of exercise for people over 60. I thought she was just being nice, but it turns out there's serious science behind it. Here's what most people don't understand about staying active after 60. It's not about high-intensity workouts or pushing yourself to exhaustion. It's about consistent, varied movement that engages your whole body. And that's exactly what gardening provides. When you're digging, you're working your arms, shoulders, and back. When you're squatting to pull weeds, you're engaging your core and strengthening your legs. Reaching for branches exercises your flexibility. And carrying bags of soil or mulch. That's resistance training without the gym membership. A study from the American Society for Horticultural Science found that just 30 minutes of gardening lowers cortisol levels, that's your stress hormone, more effectively than 30 minutes of indoor reading. Lower cortisol means less inflammation, which translates to less pain and better mobility. But here's what really surprised me. Gardening burns between 200–400 calories per hour. That's comparable to cycling or walking. And because it doesn't feel like exercise, because you're focused on the plants and the soil and creating something beautiful, you're more likely to stick with it than a formal workout routine. I had a client, Doris, who started gardening at 72 after a hip replacement. Her physical therapist was amazed at how quickly she regained her range of motion. "I forget I'm exercising," she told me. "I'm just trying to get my tomatoes planted before the rain comes." Now, the physical benefits alone would be enough reason to garden. But what I've discovered, both personally and with the hundreds of seniors I've worked with, is that the mental health benefits might be even more profound. There's something about having your hands in soil that grounds you, pun intended. Scientists call it the microbiome gut-brain axis, but I just call it garden therapy. Soil contains microorganisms that actually trigger serotonin production in your brain. That's the same happy chemical that antidepressants target. I remember the day I realized this power. It was about 3 months into my gardening revival. I was dealing with some difficult family news, and I went out to my garden feeling heavy-hearted. 2 hours later, I came inside with dirty knees, a basket of fresh herbs, and a clear mind. The problems hadn't changed, but my ability to face them had. This isn't just my experience. A study in the Netherlands followed over 2,800 people for 5 years and found that gardeners were significantly less likely to develop dementia than non-gardeners. The combination of physical activity, problem-solving, sensory stimulation, and connection to nature creates a perfect storm of brain health. And let's talk about sleep. Oh my goodness, the sleep. When I was at my most inactive, I would toss and turn all night despite feeling exhausted. Now, after a day where I've spent even just an hour in the garden, I sleep like a rock. That natural tiredness from physical work, combined with reduced anxiety and time outdoors regulating your circadian rhythm, it's better than any sleep aid I've ever tried. One of the biggest challenges of aging, and let's be honest with each other here, is isolation. Kids move away, we retire from jobs, friends relocate to be near their families. Suddenly, the robust social network we once had starts to thin. Gardening creates community in ways I never expected. It started with my neighbor Helen poking her head over the fence to ask about my tomato trellis design. Before long, we were swapping seeds and cuttings. Then came the neighborhood garden clubs. Now, 5 years later, I have a whole new circle of friends ranging from 35 to 92 years old. There's something magical about gardening that erases age gaps. When you're discussing the best way to combat aphids or debating whether to prune your hydrangeas in fall or spring, no one cares if you're collecting Social Security or still working full-time. You're just fellow gardeners. And this matters for our health. Study after study shows that social isolation increases the risk of everything from heart disease to cognitive decline. A study from Brigham Young University found that loneliness is as dangerous to our health as smoking 15 cigarettes a day or being obese. Gardens create conversation. They create sharing. They create purpose. And purpose, well, that might be the most important medicine of all. Now I know what some of you might be thinking, but Margaret, I can't garden like I used to. My knees, back, hips won't allow. And I hear you. I really do. And that's exactly why I want to share how gardening can evolve with you. When I hit 65, getting up and down from the ground became more challenging. So I started using raised beds. I built mine 30 inches high, perfect for sitting on the edge while I work. No more nailings. Some of my clients use vertical gardens, hanging baskets, or container gardens on tables. Tools have evolved too. There are now ergonomic tools designed specifically for arthritic hands. Lightweight hoses. Kneeling benches with handles to help you push yourself up. Even robot weeders if you want to get fancy. The key is adaptation, not abandonment. I had a client, Frank, who had gardened his whole life, but was ready to give it up after a stroke affected his right side. We redesigned his garden with wider paths for his wheelchair, raised beds he could reach from a seated position, and adaptive tools he could use with one hand. At 83, he's still growing the best peppers in the county. Remember this, gardens can change just as our bodies do. The joy of tending plants doesn't have to end because our knees aren't what they used to be. Here's something I didn't expect when I started gardening again. I completely changed how I eat. There's something about growing your own food that makes you want to honor it, to prepare it with care, to really taste it. When you've watched a tomato grow from a tiny seedling to a ripe, red fruit, you don't just mindlessly eat it in front of the TV. You slice it, sprinkle a little salt, maybe add some basil you also grew, and you savor it. This mindful eating naturally led me to a more plant-based diet. Not because I was trying to follow some health trend, but because I wanted to eat what I grew. And what I grew was vegetables, herbs, and fruits. The health impact was remarkable. My cholesterol dropped 30 points in 6 months. My blood pressure normalized. Even my skin looked better. But here's what really matters. Homegrown food simply contains more nutrients. A study from the University of California found that vegetables begin losing nutrients within 24 hours of harvest. When you grow your own, you're getting maximum nutrition because you're eating them at peak freshness. And let's not forget the cost savings. One packet of lettuce seeds costs about the same as a single head of lettuce at the store. From that packet, you can grow dozens of heads throughout the season. In today's economy, that matters. growing even some of your own. Food creates a positive cycle. Better nutrition leads to better health, which gives you more energy to garden, which produces more nutritious food. It's the opposite of the negative health cycles so many seniors find themselves trapped in. I want to take a moment to speak directly to those of you who might be thinking, this sounds wonderful, but I've never gardened before. It's too late to start. I need you to hear this. It is never too late to begin. Some of my most successful students started gardening in their 70s and 80s. What matters isn't your experience level, but your willingness to try, to learn, and yes, sometimes to fail. Gardens are forgiving. If a plant dies, you can plant another. If a season doesn't go well, there's always next year. The stakes are low, but the rewards are immense. Start small. Maybe it's just a pot of herbs on your windowsill. Maybe it's joining a community garden where you can learn from others. Maybe it's volunteering at a local botanical garden where the heavy work is done for you, but you still get the benefits of being among plants. I had a student, Alina, who began gardening at 79 after her husband passed away. She started with a single rosemary plant on her patio. Today, at 86, she manages 6 raised beds and supplies herbs to her local senior center's kitchen. The garden gave me a reason to get up in the morning, she told me. Now it gives me a reason to share with others. Your garden journey can start with a single pot, a single seed, a single afternoon spent with your hands in the soil. The only requirement is beginning. As I look back on these past 5 years from that day in the doctor's office to now, I'm amazed at the transformation. Not just in my physical health, though my doctor is certainly pleased with my numbers, but in my entire approach to aging. Gardening hasn't just kept me active, it's kept me engaged with the world. It's given me a community, improved my diet, sharpened my mind, and perhaps most importantly, it's given me a sense of ongoing growth. In a garden, there's always something new to learn, something to look forward to, something to plan for next season. Isn't that what we all want in our later years? Not just to maintain, but to continue growing. If you take anything from my story, let it be this. The secret to staying active after 60 isn't finding the perfect exercise regimen or medical breakthrough. It's finding an activity you love so much that it doesn't feel like exercise, it feels like living. For me, that's gardening. Maybe it will be for you too. If you're inspired to try, start small. Put your hands in soil. Plant something, anything. Watch it grow. See how it makes you feel. And remember, every garden begins with a single seed. Your journey to better health can start just as simply. Thank you for listening to my story. I'd love to hear yours. Leave a comment below about your experience with gardening or any questions you might have about getting started. And if you found this helpful, please share it with someone who might need a little garden therapy in their life. Until next time, keep growing.